Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Listen, I've got 186 slides to speak to you about today. It shouldn't take me longer than 2.5 hours. When it was a coalition, of course, I had 187. I've taken one slide out. Today is all about the rail supply group, and it's a real pleasure to talk to you about it today. So I'm talking on behalf of Alstom. You can have some questions later about Alstom if you like, but of course the focus is the rail supply group. I'd first like to say something about this event. It's an absolutely fantastic event, and it's back on the landscape as a very, very important event in Europe. And I'm delighted about that. And it's timed perfectly as well. We've got a new government in place, and we have a clear mandate. The rail industry has a very clear mandate. And we all have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I believe. So what I'm going to talk about today is basically a call to arms. But, ladies and gentlemen, if you let me talk about some facts first of all, if I may. The global rail market, what does it look like today? Well, it grew by 14 billion between 2009 and 2013. 14 billion, despite us being in the middle of one of the worst worldwide recessions ever known. Looking forward, it's going to grow by 26 billion more euros by 2019. Now that's going to be driven mainly by the Americas and by Asia. So I contend that the market is there for us, and it's not just a UK market, it's a worldwide market. And it's also driven by some absolutely massive and unstoppable megatrends. The first megatrend is urbanization. 50% of us live in cities today, and by 2030, that will rise to 66%. Unstoppable. Emerging countries, every emerging country needs transport infrastructure to build their economies. New technology is also transforming the way we work on the railway, and it's transforming the way we live our lives. The fourth megatrend is the environment. Transport plays an absolutely massive role in reducing CO2 emissions. And there's a fifth megatrend as well, which is our aging population. This is particularly important in Europe, where we share a responsibility for a larger population of over 65-year-olds than anywhere else in the world, except Japan, and that's a growing population. So there's a massive emphasis now on security, reliability, and tailored access to transport. So, in short, I'm saying the demand for rail services worldwide and in the UK is only going to grow, it's going to evolve, and it's going to present us all with real challenges. So we've got to move and we've got to adapt. Megatrends. Now I'll press the slide I wanted to. Ladies and gentlemen, can I spend a minute on the UK economy? The rail sector in the UK is underestimated by a margin. I believe the UK rail sector is a key industrial sector, and together with the train operating companies, the sector employs 212,000 people. That's 70,000 more than the automotive sector, who employ around 141,000. We contribute collectively 4 billion to the exchequer every single year, but more importantly, we move 3 million people a day, every day, and that's critical for the health of the economy generally. Separate to that, I believe the UK is probably the most studied market in the world, and it's also, for me, the most fascinating. Many other countries are here today to look at what we're doing, and we're doing an awful lot of things right. They want to know how we're doing it, they want to know why we're doing it, and they want to see and learn from our experiences. And it's puzzling for me, but it's an important point I want to make. Suppliers really should not feel on the back foot. But I know we do. You heard last night, some of you, Richard Parry Jones talking about the importance of technology and innovation. Reinforcing, in fact, the criticality of technology and innovation to this industry. I think Gisela Heinz, also a UK TI last night at the RIA event, was saying something else which was fascinating as well. She was saying that Germany have taken a look at how the UK are deploying BIM in the rail sector as a way for reducing costs in Germany. And I believe we are absolutely miles ahead of Germany. That's excellent and great news for everybody. So, what does the future hold for the UK? Well, I think there are massive opportunities. We all know about them. We've got 38 billion of infrastructure investment identified in the National Infrastructure Plan. We've got Crossrail 2, which is mooted and is critical to the development of London. We've got HS2 and HS3 coming after that, of course. A massive nationwide electrification programme. Over 2,000 rolling stock cars, 2,500 in fact, in the short term. A major investment in London Underground, which was announced only last week, and so on. And this pipeline of projects will run right into the 2020s, 2020, 2025. And I've got to say something here. I think most industries and most companies and most countries would absolutely love to be in this position. Absolutely love it. And I think we vastly underestimate the opportunity in front of us. The Conservative manifesto is already laid out. And that's another important point. The elections of last week have laid out a secure roadmap for the future of our industry as well. The welcome reappointment of Patrick McLaughlin will only reinforce that. And it was absolutely brilliant to hear the Prime Minister himself talking about infrastructure investment and the Northern Powerhouse in his first post-election speech last week. So that's really positive news. So, those are the good things. Now the problems. I think we have an issue, and I think we have a real issue. I think the supply industry is really not yet up to maximising the returns for UK PLC. I firmly believe that. I think we all know those issues, and I want to talk to you for a moment about them. First point, the overseas players are going to see the UK as a very, very attractive market. And they're all here today, and we welcome them. But they're really, really competitive, and they're sharp. The industry, I'm amongst friends here, we all know it, we get it. We fully understand this issue, but it's an issue nonetheless. I think we all would accept that we're in development mode. Maybe not every company's in the same place, but as a generalization on the industry, we're in development mode. And I think that's an important point because it means that we need help, individually and collectively. We need help to progress and just to move the game forward. I furthermore contest something, and I think it's an important way to express this, and maybe I won't put this very well, but it's my opinion. I think the industry sees projects, and I think that's the problem. I think when the industry sees projects, it's a paradigm, and it means we're all project-focused. And I think we're locked into the paradigm of delivering projects, and I don't think it's particularly healthy for the supply chain. We're going to see technology as basically driven by a market which is pulling. We're going to see franchising as a driver. We're going to only see domestic demand and to hell with the world market. And for all those reasons, I honestly believe, sincerely believe, that we are all still in tactical mode. Project mode, if you like. And frankly, strategy eats tactics and projects for breakfast. And our competitors are looking at all this strategically. So this is what I want to talk about. It's kind of evidence, if you like, and just bear with me a bit because people have been very upset to see these slides, some people. But I'm going to hang my hat on it because I think it's really important. The French and the Germans are exporting a scale order of magnitude more than we are. Germany is around 50% of the GDP of the rail sector. I also know that 66% of the Rail Industry Association's membership export, and a further 10% aim to. And that's great. And I've got to say, those companies will compete better and out-survive the ones that don't. A word for the Chinese, and I think it's an important word as well. We met them yesterday on our stand, in fact. The Chinese competitors are 40 times larger than the largest British manufacturer. 40 times larger. And they're looking to enter this market first and the European markets. And we have to compete. Now, I think it's a come on. I think we need to say it's time to come on. This cannot be serious. We should be competing overseas, not defending a domestic market. I also say something else, actually. Years ago, we were export leaders, and I think it's time we take our export markets back. So, I've got another argument here, and it's a point of view, and I'm trying to express it on a complicated slide, but if you just bear with me. I contest that the rail industry should be seen as strategic. And I think the government sees the same point of view today. But we need to be more joined up. We know that. But there's an issue sitting underneath all this. And it does stem from privatisation, and it's one of the issues I think we collectively need to tackle. The privatisation model, I believe, does not address fully industry's needs. It doesn't address manufacturers' needs, and it doesn't address the long-term needs of the industry. And it's reasonable. A franchise operator with a 5-year franchise is going to spend some time, but not dedicated time and not focused time on a 10-year technology development. He's got no need to, and he's got no interest in that, and I think that's a perfectly viable argument, but it's the case today. R&D costs are high, we all know that. And we also know that returns are absolutely uncertain. So the pressure for everybody to deliver in the short term, I believe, has overtaken investment and planning for the long term. And that's bad for our industry. The TOCs and other franchise operators and stakeholders and the government, they know they have a duty. This is not a criticism of individual companies or of that setup generally. It's more a fact. If you've got that setup, then how do you express yourself in business terms? How do you express business reality through that window, through that portal, for what we need for long-term development of our industry? And you simply cannot. Frankly, why should a 5-year franchise really be looking at a 10-year investment and thinking about it at all? I get it. We get it. But so does the government. And by the way, so do the franchise operators. So we all get it, but we don't know what to do about it. And that's the issue today. And that's what we have to tackle. What we can do, all of us collectively and individually, is give it a firm boot up the ass, and start talking about this in real terms as an organisation, the UK Rail Supply Group. And I think actually the government is satisfied or pleased that there's actually a voice. And that voice is going to help us. Now, if we fail to address this, if we fail to take this on board and tackle it head on, there are real issues. And the most obvious one is this. The UK is a beautiful, big market today. And we see for the next 5 to 7 years, that's being sustained. So we're happy. But we're also facing danger because there's a cycle. And that cycle's going to arrive, and it will arrive early 2020s to mid-2020s. And if we're not investing now, and if we're not capitalizing on the investment and, for example, exporting or moving technology forward and bringing those ideas to market, we'll die. And we'll die. And what will happen is what's happened before. We will have to go all the way back through a cycle before we start to fight again. And we will rely entirely on imports and entirely on a non-domestic supply system. And that's a fact. It's not a risk. It's not a threat. It's just a fact. So we must do something about it now while the market's rich and while the opportunity presents itself to us. I contest. And my company, Alstom, sees that in another area, by the way. It's the energy sector. We've got exactly the same problems in the nuclear sector, which everybody saw and everybody faced collectively and did nothing about 15 years ago. And today, the investment cost of ramping up to deliver nuclear to the UK is over 2 billion, just in terms of people cost in the companies involved. 2 billion. So we don't want to be there. So that's in part why we launched the Rail Supply Group, and that's a bit of what I'm here to talk about today. This is about 11 industry leaders. It could be more, it could be less, but we've taken a council model from other sectors, and we've launched it on that basis. 11 industry leaders, stakeholders both from the supply side and from customers, 2 secretaries of state, and 2 senior government officials, and a great deal of support. And I want to say this, it's a genuine partnership. It's a genuine partnership between industry and government, and it has to work. So it's not just 3 new letters, it's not just 3 new, an acronym of R, S, and G, and it means something to somebody. This is the first time the industry has ever done this. And it's not temporary. We're in this for the long, long term. And we're building plans for 10 to 20 years based around the things, the concepts and the precepts that we're constructing today. We've made a vision document to basically have our first discussions with the government on. And it might not seem very important, but honestly, it's the first time it's been done. And the vision we've laid out is really quite clear. In fact, I'd argue it's crystal clear. We are going to double exports. We are going to attract the very best talent to the UK rail sector. We are going to harness the energy and the innovation of a greater number of SMEs. We are going to be the global leader in high-speed rail. And we will have a highly innovative and entrepreneurial supply chain. Yes, we will. And all of that is resulting in the UK confirming its place, its important place now, as a global leader in rail. So it's an ambitious vision. I think it is. I think it's an ambitious vision. But it was only the starting point, and a very large number of companies have contributed to that set of ideals. And we've had a fantastic response to the vision document. Through the process, I've met some absolutely fascinating people, inspirational, frankly, and they're doing this for free. Nobody's getting paid for this. The industry's doing it for free. And we've invested hundreds of thousands of hours in dialogue, and we've invested hundreds of thousands of hours in production of our plans. If I've got a concern, it's that not enough companies are involved, frankly. And if this is left to a peloton of some big companies and government officers, it won't work. It has to have the buy-in and the support and the involvement, every word, the involvement of all of you. Every single thing in the documents we produce have got to resonate with what you say you want us to do. Okay? And that's really important, because what we're on with producing now isn't a development of a vision document, a dialogue piece, it's an industrial strategy. We've been asked to do this. We initially suggested it, and we initially said it was too much and too far. In developing the vision document and engaging the country with its ambitious businesses, it became abundantly clear that there was something missing in the scenery, because we can't project ourselves with the government around what we want to do properly, how we're going to do it properly, and who's involved in that. What are the big asks? What are the big demands? And what are the massive gains we need to present? And how do we express that? So we're going to produce an industrial strategy. In fact, it's a team, I think, of 15 drafters who are working on it now from industry, from businesses, supported by BIS and DFT, under the steady hand of Jim Lupton, who's the project manager. I think he's in the audience somewhere, Jim. There's Jim. It's going to be his fault, responsibility, to deliver this up to us and to government under Minister Wish by the end of the year. And we'll make a real good crack at it. So the start point has occurred. We launched. You may not have heard of it, and you may not be involved. And that's our regret, and it's a pity. But it's a fact that we've got to move at pace, and we want everybody to be involved. So in the process, you'll be invited. If you're not invited, invite yourselves, and please make sure that your voice is heard.
Terence, thank you very much indeed.
How do you get involved? Quite a few people have asked this question and sort of go around and get lost and don't get involved, but not because they don't want to. The Secretariat is a standing army of an organised team that do all the administration and will ensure that people who want to be involved get plugged into either a work stream or a leadership group somewhere or the industrial strategy drafting group. So please direct your interest to Secretariat at the website there.